Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Their Journey, a sit down with the National Digest. I'm your host, Eric Mastrota, and this is our fifth episode today with Dr. Janet Smith Warfield. If you haven't already, I urge you to check out our previous episodes with Dr. Warfield before embarking on this one, as well as our other upcoming episodes. Today, we'll be expanding even further on what we previously learned, as well as ask some more viewer submitted questions based on our previous conversations. Hello, Dr. Warfield. Lovely to see you again today.
I hope you. I wouldn't answer that question for you last time, as I recall. So we're
Yeah.
also conditioned into just saying that.
Yep.
And
Yep.
sometimes it's fine.
Exactly. Well, to get us started, something we did kind of focus on a lot yesterday, but also our previous episodes, is starting a lot with yourself and one's own self-awareness before walking towards healing with others in other areas of life. And on a larger scale, there's arguments that global peace begins with inner peace. So, in that same vein, we have a question from Alicia from New York who asks, specifically when thinking of planetary peace, power, and prosperity, how do you envision the foundation's work scaling from that individualized transformation to more systemic and planetary healing?
Alicia, there's a part of me that truly doesn't know. I'm very clear about my own role in this because I have lived through it. Um, just turning off one of the things that popped up on the screen at me. But what I can offer you some pointers. I
Hmm.
mean, words are placeholders for something that you really can't stabilize or fix. So these are some resources that I have learned over my many years of living that perhaps will help you figure this out as well. I can't tell you what your role is in this. I can't tell you who you are or what has been given to you to do, but you are one of many little microcosms, as am I, in this huge macrocosm of planetary peace, power, and prosperity, which we can co create together. But you've got to decide what your role is in this. I can't give that to you. But here are some resources, and um, you can start writing affirmations, for example. And if you don't know what any of these things are, you can find a lot more detailed information in this book, which is my first Amazon best-selling book.
Hmm.
But let me just list these for you. And if you're not familiar with them, uh, take a look in my book or go to an AI search, which will probably also give you information about these. So, affirmations. Affirmations are positive statements about yourself. And if you keep repeating these, they become part of who you are.
Hmm.
They kind of solidify into your own soul or energetic field or spirit. And you start truly believing these, that this is who you are. They're all positive statements. Then there are vision boards.
Hmm.
And had I had a little more time, I might have been able to bring one up here, share it for you to see, but I didn't. So um, I'm I may have some in one of my books. My other Amazon best-selling book is Surrendering into Soul: A Heroine's Journey, or which got banned by Amazon KDP after it hit number one in three categories. It's now in a category with several other banned books like Charlotte's Web, Brave New World, Huckleberry Finn, and the Christian Bible. So thank you. That's an honor. even though it didn't feel like an honor at the time. It felt like being hit over the head with a 2x4. So, yeah, certainly vision boards. And vision boards are fun to do. Oh, you can also go on our website. There's a lot of content up there. That is Planetary Peace Power, AND. You got to get this right. You don't put an ampersand in there.
Mhm.
Prosperity.org. There's a lot of content there. Mastermind groups. Mastermind groups are really helpful. There, you're not working by yourself. Well, you don't necessarily have to be working by yourself with these affirmations or vision boards either. But, sometimes you're working on your own vision board. And then afterwards, if there are other people each working on their own, you share what's on your own vision board. And what's interesting is sometimes other people will see things in your vision board that you did not see. And that's another eye opener. Mastermind groups. These are, they can be really powerful. I've worked usually, I think 4 to 6 people is maximum on this. But before you actually come together, either physically or through Zoom or some other internet system, you share your own template for, if you do it, for example, for every week, sometimes it's every month, you decide. But if you do it every week, for example, each week, a day before you gather physically together, you think for yourself and you write down, what have my successes been this week? What have I done really well? What have I accomplished? And then there are 4 of these, and I didn't write them down, but I'm trying to remember them. I know one is, what do I need? Or what is my direction for the next week? I think it is more. And then how can you support me? What is it I need? And then the last one is, what can I offer? What can I give? So we're getting back again into this whole infinity dynamic. It's a giving and receiving dynamic. You give what you are able to give easily, and then you receive from others who are able to do things that you are not able to do. I think of an example just yesterday, or was it yesterday, day before? I was out in the little community organic garden here, and there was a new gardener in there, a young man, and he went over to the 4 recycle bins where we put our garbage and the stuff that's compostable. And he turned every single one, and they were really chock full, so that the hinges were not on the top, so that the lid was on the top, so that those of us who didn't have that kind of strength or ability could actually open them and put our recyclables in the recycle bin. And, all I could do was say, thank you so much. I didn't have the physical strength to do that, but he did. And he did it voluntarily. And he said to me, it was fun for me. And it was fun for him. It wasn't fun for me. So, yeah, masterminds, you have other people supporting you, and you are supporting other people. When you gather, you each go through your own template, and then other people will chime in and say, oh, well, have you tried this? No, I didn't think of that, but yeah, that's a good idea. I'll try it. Visualization, that is pretty much, I think lots of times it's an individual activity, but sometimes it can be a group activity too. If you could live in any kind of world you wanted to live in, what would that look like? and just sit down and journal for a while. Just put the ideas flying into your mind down on a piece of paper so that you can go back and look at them from the outside in instead of putting them down from the inside out.
Yeah.
Positive thinking, yes, that is so important. Yeah, you can look out there, you can see everything that's wrong in this world, killing, fighting, wars, whatever. But you can also look out there and you can see, well, what is good in my life right now? You know, I have a roof over my head. I have a bed to sleep in. Um, if you start focusing on what's good, I have people who love me and support me.
Right.
Um, Focus on that. Don't focus on what's wrong. Focus on what's right
Yeah.
and say thank you. There's also something called a little gratitude bowl you can keep if you want. It's just a simple little bowl.
Mm.
You can pick the bowl you like, but every day, just write down something for which you are grateful on a little piece of paper, stick it in the gratitude bowl. And if there's a time when you're feeling really frustrated or hurt or abandoned or betrayed or it was some real deep traumatic experience,
Mm.
just go to your gratitude bowl and read through what you put there over a period of time, or refocus your attention again to right here, right now. What do I have to be grateful for right here? Awareness. This is so important.
Yeah.
I think I've talked a little bit about our logo, which is kind of a consciousness journey from my perspective. You'll see a different version of it up on our website. I think it's called a consciousness map by our website. I mean, Planetary Peace, Power, A&D, Prosperity.org. And it's one of the tabs at the top. If you go into that, you'll see a little different version. But let me just talk about the symbol first. That center point is a timeless, and this deals with awareness, timeless, spaceless point of pure present moment awareness.
Mm.
Ram Dass says, be here now. T.S. Eliot, I'm just trying to remember what he wrote it in, but he talks about the still point in the turning world. The turning world is all those spikes going out every place around that still point. It doesn't mean you don't ever go out of that and take action yourself or speak yourself. You definitely do, but you've got a choice from that center point. It's kind of a creative consciousness.
Mm.
You're probably when you're born, you're conditioned into only one of those directions. Your parents and your teachers and your friends and your whole experience with life give you perhaps one or two of those lines to go out on. And of course, everybody who's thinking in a linear fashion tells you there's certain steps you have to take to do it right. But you get to, from that center point, you get to choose.
Yeah.
So that's present moment awareness. And then you get to choose how you're going to experience a situation, what you're going to feel. And your emotions give you a lot of information about how to respond, how to act. And now I'm thinking of the Buddhist Eightfold Path. I think the first three are right view, right. Just trying to think what they are. It's certainly right perspective or right view. And then, right words,
Mm.
whatever the word right means, and then right action. And they're all tied together. They're all related to one another. And you get to choose from
Mm.
that point of center point of pure present moment awareness. And it's always different. It's not consistent because where you are and the people around you and your own inner choices constantly change. Next one is choice. I've had people say to me, I didn't know I had choices.
Mhm.
Maybe you were whipped into thinking, whipped by your father or screamed at by your mother to only go in one direction.
Mhm.
And you darn well better do it, or you would feel that whip or those vicious words directed at you. You know, as you become an adult, you have more choice because you're no longer in that environment where you were screamed at or whipped or abused in some way. And you are always in choice. But it doesn't feel like it when when you're a child.
Mhm.
So once you realize that, you start looking at the possibilities. Okay, I don't like where I am. What can I do to change it? And where can I find support
Mhm.
or learning or whatever it is you need? You get to decide. Uh, the serenity prayer has been a really important piece in my own life. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, what I can change and what I cannot change.
Yeah.
And then you look at what you can change, and if it's going to support you or give you other options, you take that path. And sometimes it's a path less traveled. I
Mhm.
forget who wrote that book, but um, I have the I have a copy of the Serenity Prayer, which I think I bought out in Hawaii at one point in time. I'm not sure where I got it, but I know I purchased it someplace where I was visiting, spending some time. And it's written both in English and in maybe Native Hawaiian, I'm not sure. But I have it framed on my wall to remind me if I'm challenged at a particular moment in time that, hey, go back to this and use it. Um, yeah, I think I may have talked about this before, but I spent 3 or 4 years in Naranian groups, and there's Al-Anon, which is alcohol. There's Alcoholics Anonymous, and then there are the Al-Anon groups, who are the codependents or the people who have also been hurt by people who get sucked into alcohol abuse, and they do it just because they're so traumatized. It kind of soothes them for a while, but then it creates other issues in their lives. Um, so there are 12 steps within any of these Al-Anon, Nor-Anon, or AA groups, Alcoholics Anonymous, or maybe it's Narcotics Anonymous. Um, they're very powerful. They can be. You got to be a little careful, but they can be very powerful groups. And the 12-step program is also a very powerful path to follow through on. I'm just trying to remember. I kind of got stuck on the fourth step because it was something about, and I don't have it right in front of me, so I might get it wrong, but it was something about um, choosing to believe in a power greater than yourself or God or some, I forget what term they were using. And uh, I was really clear. I did not believe the way, this is one way that God has been depicted in art as an old man sitting up on a cloud with a thunderbolt in his hand, ready to strike you dead if you didn't do what he ordered you to do. And I was quite clear that one was not working for me. So I was really challenged with that. But I may have told this story before. Maybe it happened to me more than once, but I think I've already talked about the Mind Spring and EST groups that I was involved with when I was younger for a while. But I was so traumatized and challenged by accepting this idea of a God,
Mm.
who was all powerful up there. Um, that suddenly I'm sitting in my own living room and I had to make a choice whether to say yes or no to some other human beings. And I didn't know which way to go because I knew if I said no, I would probably get thrown out or whatever. Um, and suddenly I found myself down on my knees on my living room floor, tears streaming down my face,
Mm.
saying, God help me. And as I spoke those words, a calm came over. And I can't explain it, but it felt as if somehow together we could do this. Now, you know, what was God? What was going on here? But I could feel a shift in my own energetic field. Um, and the end result here is self-mastery. It's not trying to change other people. It's mastering your own mind, your own emotions, choosing your own perspectives and choosing your own actions. And I think in the Buddhist Eightfold Path, these are the first three or so are called wisdom practices, wisdom traditions. Um, so Alicia's question, and Alicia, if you're watching this or listening to this, let's just speak directly to you. Uh, Eric is kind of translating here, or the National Digest is, the connector or the intermediary. But let me just speak for a minute directly to you. Um, the foundation's work scaling from individual transformation to systemic and planetary healing.
Mm.
I don't control that.
Right.
I can only control myself, just as you can master these steps to inner peace and personal empowerment and a sense of a prosperity or abundance or having enough. Prosperity doesn't mean having palaces necessarily or a lot of money, but it's feeling safe, protected, secure, and free to be who the role you are given to play on this planet. And when each and every one of us, if we want inner peace and personal empowerment and a sense of prosperity or having enough in our own lives, why not do it? Learn what you have to learn, do what you have to do, overcome the challenges you have to overcome.
Mm.
And then, if everyone were to do that, it would become planetary. And I don't know precisely how the big picture, the macrocosm is going to play out,
Mm.
but I have lived steps in my own life to inner peace, personal empowerment, and prosperity, and maybe some of the systems I have learned or the people that I have worked with over the years will be tools that you can play with and explore and bring inner peace, personal empowerment, and a sense of having enough and gratitude for the one precious life you have been given. I guess I'm done with that. Eric, do you
Yeah.
have any other
No, that's great.
comments or questions you want to ask on that?
No, that's great. I love talking about the foundation as well, because something that we only briefly touched on, but that I loved learning a little bit more about was the your foundation's vision for a retreat property, which you mentioned emphasizes things like co-creation and manifestation. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about that and how you see that space fostering deeper healing and collaboration amongst the people there.
That's a really interesting question. And again, I don't have full control over any of this because there are other players in there. Um, if we can, and each of us is unique, each of us has had our own life path and our own role to play. But let me just talk a little bit about the retreat property. Um, we're looking for this now. We've been looking for this for since at least since 2021. The foundation itself, the structure is a legal structure um, within the United States federal system structure. It's a 501c3 educational foundation that's been in existence since April 20th, 2020. No, April 17th, 2020. But, and we're not the only group of people, and the ones I'm working with, who are thinking this way right now, specifically in terms of land, because the land itself is really important.
Mm.
Right now, I live in Florida at the rate we're going. Uh, Florida could be totally underwater in 100 years. I don't want to put a lot of money, time, and energy and human resources into a property that's not going to be here anymore in 100 years unless we change a lot of the things we're doing right now. So we're currently looking, and we've been doing this for a long time. We just haven't got all the pieces put together yet. Um, but there is a vision for, okay, land at a higher altitude
Mm.
so that it won't be underwater in 100 years. Uh, we're looking for a minimum of 20 acres, but maybe even and with a habitable structure already in place, so that at least a core group of people could immediately move in and live there and then have a lot of face-to-face information exchanges, actually experience the property, what are its strengths, what are its weaknesses. But because I used to be a title attorney, I have a lot of skills and background in how to do this. And another member of our board of directors, Duncan McClintock, walks all the time. We've had many conversations. I actually found two properties in 2021. It was around, I think, the end of 2021, which would have been perfect for
Mm.
us to work with. But I wasn't able to do the financing all by myself at that point. Um, reason I could get into a lot of depth here. Reason being, it used to be easy to get a mortgage on properties you already own. But after the 2008 debacle, when the government bailed out the banks, now all the banks want to see is your tax returns. They don't want to see your credit rating. They don't want to see what other properties you own. They really don't want to give you a mortgage unless they know you have a lot of money coming in. So they look at your tax returns and nothing else. And, my tax returns didn't qualify for me to be able to mortgage two other properties that I had. Had I been able to do that, I probably could have, personally bought these perfectly wonderful supportive properties, but that didn't happen. We're still looking. There are a lot of properties out there.
Mm.
Um, yeah, Duncan McClintock, another member of our board of directors, walks 13 miles a day in the woods. And he does this to stay sane, to stay in that timeless, spaceless point of pure present moment awareness and get out of all the chaos going on around all of us right now. But he knows a lot of things that I don't know because that's his background, that's his experience. We've actually, and I'm still looking through land watch and that kind of stuff. I'm keeping my eye on available properties. And I mentioned this before or not, but I own a unit in a high rise on Panama Bay in Panama City, Panama, which I've listed for sale. And I'm going to say when I sell it,
Mm.
with whatever money we get, I can use that as a down payment on a property that is going to be suitable for us. But let's talk a little bit more about other things that I would be looking for. As I said, at least minimum of 20 acres, a habitable structure, internet availability, a freshwater stream or spring-fed pond so that we have decent water to drink, forest trails, and minimal governmental regulation. Now, we actually found one tract of land up in New York State in I believe it's a state-owned park, the Adirondack State Park. But Duncan said to me, he said, you've got to be, it was 800, no, I'm trying to think, did I get this right? It was over, I think, was it 200 acres or 800 acres? I can't remember, but it was a lot of ground. It was a former blueberry farm, so there was already food on there available, and there were old apple trees there. And I'm thinking, boy, that sounds like a great piece of property. And look at all the space we had to expand if we need to. But Duncan says you got to be careful in New York State because they'll tax the dickens out of you.
Mm-hmm.
So the state, the federal government, every county, I guess every city, every legal entity that we've co-created is going to want a piece of money from you in property taxes or whatever, income taxes or whatever kind of taxes they want to impose. So he said I would be careful about that. That's something I hadn't thought about. But yeah, it makes it less desirable. But the property we end up with is going to depend on when I can sell this Panama Bay unit that I own. And I there's a lot going on right now. um, in terms of the people we would invite in,
Mm.
I think we would probably want to know something about the people that wanted to come in and live in this community with us. What are their values?
Mm.
Are they respectful? Are they able to listen to other people and respect other people? Are they non-violent? Certainly. And then, what are their skills? What kind of education do they have? We would love to have people in there who have education in architecture, for example, or civil engineering, or lots mechanical engineering, lots of things like that. Because they would have skills that I certainly don't have. I was never allowed to study engineering when I went through college, and it wasn't where my interest was either. I was pretty good at economics. Um, So, and why would they want to live there?
Mm.
You know, tell us, what is it about this property that would attract you? And would you agree to a covenant? That's kind of a new term for me, but I'm finding it useful of do no harm or
Mm.
do unto others what you would have others do unto you, or listen to and respect both yourself and others. Would you agree to that if you were to come in here? And um, there's I don't know whether you've heard of sociocracy, but it's a system of deciding who decides
Mm.
if there's if there are issues that to be determined and people can't agree and everybody wants to do it their own way. Sociocracy, it has a large structure to it, but it's very useful because you look at the objections first, and then you see and you look at the little objections first, and then you go back and forth in discussion or conversation and see if you can get them resolved. Um, and then it moves kind of up a chain. If you could, and it's, does anybody have any objection to this proposal? Is the kind of question that's asked. And if nobody has any objection, then you accept it and you do it. And
Yeah.
it's real easy. If is controversy or there are objections, then clearly you have to have a conversation about it until you find a, I'm not going to say a solution, but kind of an agreement to which nobody has any objections.
Mm.
And then you go do that. And it just expands and grows
Mm.
out and out and out. Um, we're currently looking at land in the Western Mountains of North Carolina. I already own a little piece of land in the Western Mountains of North Carolina, where in Flat Rock, actually, it's in an intentional community. And the members of our board of directors are, at least most of them, are going to come together there
Right.
in the beginning of July before Nandi Kumar has to go back to India, Delhi, India, where he lives, although he treks out to the foothills of the Himalayas all the time to support, educate, support, and feed the poor children in some of the little villages in the foothills of the Himalayas. And another member, a new member of our board of directors, um, it's fascinating how all of this interconnects, and you don't see it all at once. But he has trekked out to Nepal, and I think Nandi has been in Nepal at all. I have been in Uganda. I spoke there in 2018, I believe it was, at a little town in Uganda. It was at an International Women's Day
Mm.
conference or gathering. But this new member of our board of directors, Bob Hopkins, has also been to Uganda. And I actually introduced him to the people who were supporting me
Mm.
in getting to the right place and giving me a place to sleep and supporting me as they were able. So, and the other piece of this, Bob Hopkins has created two beautiful coffee table books and about philanthropy.
Mm.
And the whole idea of philanthropy, again, is this giving and receiving dynamic.
Mhm.
Um, what I recently discovered is the people that I know and am working with or have worked with are in that book.
Mm.
I received a free copy from Bob. I bought one copy from Bob. And then I didn't have time to really go into depth. I knew they were beautiful coffee table books, so I put them on my coffee table, but I never really had the time to look inside.
Mm.
And now, as I look inside, I'm seeing all these people that I have had very close connections with over the years. How does this kind of stuff happen?
Yeah.
We don't see it at first. Um, So, um, yeah, I don't recall whether I mentioned the Poconos in Pennsylvania, but that was another place we're looking. Uh, Probably focused mostly on the Western Mountains of North Carolina, where the board will all be gathering,
Mhm.
getting the beginning of July, end of June. Interesting. We'll see what happens when we get up in that space. Um, so if we get all the above things right, beginning with a piece of land, um, it becomes a quote container for fostering the deeper healing and collaboration that um, I believe um, was that Alicia? No, that was the previous question. But that was the question without a name attached to it, I believe.
Yeah.
So that's the way we're seeing it right now, but that doesn't mean it's going to stay there because
Right.
this is not static.
Yeah.
This is dynamic. This is constantly moving and changing and shifting.
Right.
And you never know what miracles are going to come in to support you. I have so many unexpected miracles or connections coming into my life. I just had one come in by email this morning of somebody off, offering to market this book. And she had, I mean, I was impressed
Mm.
because her comment was that what we have right now is kind of microscopic,
Mhm.
but it can be amplified. And I don't know whether I've mentioned to you our Facebook business page, which is Planetary Peace, Power, and Prosperity. It's now amplifying. This is in about 2 years. It's almost up to $25,000 this morning
Oh.
from starting at 100. So this is what is possible when each one of us just focuses on our own role, inner peace, personal empowerment, and prosperity. Um, and I'll just mention in here too, there are already communities doing this.
Mhm.
And I often think, is this what Karl Marx actually meant by communism? These little communities, not this top down brutal control structure, but little individual people coming together in community and creating these little beautiful, beautiful supportive places where people can come together and co-create together. And I will just mention three. There's Auroville in Tamil Nadu, India. Fascinating little community. I was only there for one day, but I was there. This may have been one that I tried to talk about, but didn't remember the name of it. That's Damanhur. And that's the one inside a mountain with just beautiful art created within there and beautiful support system. Um, I've seen pictures of that one. I've never been there. But the third one that I can think of is the Oracle Institute, which is up in Independence, Virginia, which is the western part of Virginia. I think I did talk about that, but that is was started by Laura George, who is also has the legal training. I think she's still certified as an attorney. I am not still certified as an attorney, but she's built this five-sided little small, not as big as the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., which is either the defense Pentagon or the war Pentagon, depending on what words you want to use to describe it, whether it's attacking other people or whether it's standing your ground to prevent your creativity from being destroyed. They're two very different dynamics. Why is my hand saying that? I didn't think I did. I must have hit the wrong button. Um, so yeah, you have any other questions about that? All right. We're
Just
done with that one.
yeah, yeah. Because I definitely wanted to hear about because we've discussed in regards to the foundation, but also in general, this philosophy of a shift from scarcity into abundance. So we have a question from Edward from Washington, who asks, "How can you help individuals heal their relationship with scarcity, whether it be in their life, financially, emotional, or spiritual scarcity, while also acknowledging the realities of systemic inequality?"
I looked at that question
Yeah,
and I thought, Edward, let's just start with you here
right. Yeah.
because that is such a broad question that and it has a lot of generic terms in it that I would want to break down into tinier parts to answer. So let's see. Edward, I could either communicate to you here or people who are watching and listening there. But let's talk specifically to Edward from Washington, who asked this question. And I will tell you what I would want to know to clarify and
Hmm.
be able to even offer an answer. Because Edward is not here,
Yeah.
I'm just told by you what his question was or by the National Digest. Um, I don't have enough information to figure out what would support him. And, what do these words mean that he's using? Um, so these are the questions I would ask you, Edward. When you refer to Washington, notice I'm asking questions on here about what's your reference point here.
Hmm.
Your word is a placeholder for something, but it's not clear to me. For example, are you talking about Washington State or are you talking about Washington, D.C.? They're very different places.
Hmm.
I think he's probably talking about Washington State. But then, my next question would be, well, where within Washington State do you live? Do you
Hmm.
live in Seattle, in Spokane, in the country, farmland, the mountains? Makes a difference.
Hmm.
The land on which you live and the people that are surrounding you
Right.
make a big difference as to what you can do and what you can't do right now. Then I'd like to know how old he is.
Hmm.
Um, and of course, from the name Edward, I assume he was born into a male body, but that makes a difference too,
Right.
whether you're born into a male body or a female body. Men are generally physically stronger than women, but that doesn't mean that women are just pawns on a chessboard to be moved around because women have their own minds and their own needs. And women are very good as supporters and mothers.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm assuming he was born into a male body. And then I'd be, he's talking about realities. It's a reality for him, but it's not necessarily a reality for everyone. Systemic inequality. What is he talking about here? So I'm wondering, is he an immigrant?
Hmm.
Uh, or so these are other questions I'd be asking. Were you born in the United States or did you immigrate here? If so, from what country and when?
Hmm.
Because I think all this is relevant to
Yeah.
those words about scarcity and systemic inequality. A lot of people who immigrate to the United States have to take very hard, low-paying jobs because
Yeah.
they're trying to survive. That's all. Um, so then, what is your ancestry and the color of your hair and the color of your eyes? Is this part of what you're referring to when you use that term, the realities of systemic inequality? Is he feeling, does he have black skin, for example? Is he feeling um, as if he has to sit in the back of the bus as black people did years ago, or that he's brought here as a slave? Is that part of his past experience? I don't know. And are your parents or other family members nearby? That makes a difference. And can you support one another? Maybe they fight. Maybe they don't like one another. Maybe he's the only one, he's all by himself. All this makes a difference. Uh, so I would need to know if I were speaking directly to Edward, and you tell me Edward is asking a question, I would want answers to all these questions because they would help me suggest ways or ask questions. I probably would ask him questions that would help him get from where he is. He's saying he's talking about healing his relationship with scarcity. Obviously, he feels he doesn't have enough.
Mm.
He's not in abundance,
Yeah.
or he's not in power. I can get out of the way here so you can see the words, and the system keeps insisting on centering me, which means you can't see the name of the foundation. It's hidden in logos beneath the surface. So he's talking about three kinds of scarcity. He's talking about financial, emotional, and spiritual. These are all very different kinds of scarcity.
Yeah.
So I think you have to focus on one at a time. And if you begin with financial scarcity, let's see. All right. Again, I have more detailed questions that I would like to ask Edward.
Mm.
Are you sleeping out on the street? Are you not able to get a job? Or are you only able to get a physically challenging, time-consuming, and low-paying job? Not able to bring in enough money to buy the things you want? Are you married? Do you have a wife and children to support? Do you own your own home? If so, is there a mortgage on it? And these are all relevant questions to helping Edward bring inner peace, personal empowerment, and a sense of prosperity into his own one precious life. Or do you rent a home? Are you challenged keeping a roof over your head, paying utility bills, having enough food to eat? How old are you? How much education do you have? What has your life path been up to now? So I would be asking very specific questions about Edward, because answers to those questions would help me figure out what might help Edward move. Edward only. Edward asked the question, and he's using very generic terms. What might help you move beyond where you are now, mentally, financially, emotionally, spiritually, to where you would like to be? And where would you like to be?
Mm-hmm.
This is the visualization.
Right.
If you're unhappy where you are, what location do you believe would make you happier?
Mm.
What type of job? What additional schooling and training? What do you need to know? Or is there something I'm missing in when I'm asking these questions? And then if we talk about emotional scarcity, what does this mean to you, Ed? Does it mean not feeling safe in your own home? fearing that somebody may break into your home and try to rob you or injure you. I have had that experience when I lived in the Western Mountains of Panama twice in gated communities where individuals broke into my home and stole stuff and ruined stuff. Or does emotional scarcity mean you're not supported by others in your community? You
Mm.
know, maybe others are screaming at you or abusing you or calling you names or who knows, maybe even hitting you physically. Um, Spiritual scarcity. So that with that, I would ask, do you believe in or feel as if you have any kind of connection? And you can give it whatever name you want. These words are placeholders for an experience, but
Mm.
with a power greater than yourself. You can call it God, Allah, universal energy, whatever names you want to give it. But do you have that or not? Or are you skeptical
Mm.
and you don't feel that connection flowing through you and back out into the world? And have you considered rephrasing your question?
Mm.
Um, and what if you were to shift your focus
Mm.
to scarcity and systemic inequality to all of the good things in your life? And these are some of the tools that I was running through earlier that you can use if you choose to use them.
Yeah.
Um, and I already talked about a gratitude bowl. And then again, getting back to these basic questions to ask yourself, first person singular,
Right.
what what do I need? What are my choices right here, right now? What do I need to know and whom can I trust? They're really important questions to get your own answers to. And what can I do right here, right now to move my own life in the direction I want it to go?
Yeah.
I think I'm done for now
No,
with that.
yeah, I love that because I love that it's echoing like what you said, what we've been talking about, and
It
starting
comes
with the
back to the
individual.
same stuff
Yeah,
all the time.
starts with
It's
you and
it's a
yourself.
shift, it's a refocus, it's a you know a shift, change your words, change your world.
Right, right.
And it's not only changing your words, but it's changing your actions
Yes, yeah,
and your perspective. I mean, I don't know whether you've ever played with optical illusions, but they're fascinating to
yeah.
play with because nothing in front of you changes. But there are a couple I particularly love. One is one by a friend of mine, John Langdon. He puts pink and black and gray colors in front of you, and you will either see love or you will see hate. Some people see words like note. It's interesting because nothing that's in front of you changes. All that changes is what you see in
Perspective.
that fixed image.
Yeah,
And depending on what you see, you're probably going to feel very differently. If you see hate, you're going to be thinking about the hate that was directed toward you.
right.
If you see love, you usually feel safe, embraced, and serene.
Yeah.
So, where do you want to focus your own energy? There's another one. It's got little two words, good and evil. Which do you see? Where do you want to put your focus? Nothing in the image changes. What changes is the way you choose to see the world in
Right,
which you live, the world around you. And if you don't like where you are, how can you change that?
right. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
um, just, yeah, basically see where we are in these questions.
Well, yeah, it kind of goes right into the next question when we're talking about moving from conditioned reaction to actual conscious action. How
Yeah,
do you help individuals translate their own inner healing into actual tangible actions that then align with their values as well?
I go back to the same thing, but first of all, am I helping individuals? I don't know. I I can do exactly the same thing, and some people will love it, and others will hate it.
Right,
You know,
right.
get angry with me and walk out. So I just am who I am, but I know who I am, and I know what I'm here to do, what I can do, and what I can't do. Um, and that keeps changing too. I mean, sometimes it feels as if miracles are coming into my life, and other times, well, lots of times that happens. I'm thinking, maybe I stopped for a minute that kept me from getting into a head-on car collision and getting killed. I
Mm,
stopped to check something. You never know.
yeah,
And none of us knows how much time we've been given. So what are you going to do with the time that you have been given, however long that is? None of us knows where and when we're going to take our last breath. I don't.
right.
But um, yeah, you see, I wouldn't even be focusing on inner healing, although I know what that feels like because I've certainly been in states of huge confusion and betrayal and abandonment. Uh, and it's, what did I do wrong? But there's nothing wrong with you.
Mm,
That doesn't mean that you can't expand and grow and make a big difference right where you are, right here, right now. Um, but I would say stop reacting, certainly.
mm,
I mean, you're talking about moving from you conditioned reaction, just stop it
mm,
and pause before you speak or act.
right.
Pause for a minute and think, is this what I really want to do? I mean, I've been in very short temporary states where I wanted to murder people. I wouldn't go out and buy a gun and kill them because they had hurt me so badly. But I didn't do it because I stopped and I thought I didn't want my children to be orphans. And I didn't want to either be executed myself or spend the rest of my life in jail.
Mm,
So I stopped reacting. I could have reacted like that. I mean, the thought certainly came into my mind and pause, just pause, and then ask the same six foundational questions that I've repeated over and over and over again. What do you think right here, right now? What do you feel right here, right now? What do you need right here, right now? And what are your choices? Are you going to go out? If you're hungry, are you going to go out and steal food or are you going to maybe grow some of your own
mm,
or get a hard job so that you can buy some? What do I need to know? That's a big one. And
mm,
there's so many resources out there.
yeah.
And there are there's still free libraries out there where you don't have to pay any money to go in and borrow a book for a couple of weeks and read it if you have the time to do that or you choose to make the time to do it. And then whom can I trust, which is another really hard one because there are people that I've been able to trust within certain contexts and who've been really supportive to me. I think, for example, of a woman who created a beautiful trifold brochure for my middle son's memorial service. It was gorgeous, and we were working so closely together. But then I made the mistake of offering her a place to sleep and, a shelter when all she had was her own car to sleep in. And she came in and she was dealing with so much rage that she trashed a lot of my family heirlooms while she was in Israel. It was so bad, her rage flying around all over the place in here, trying to resolve her own issues, that I locked my bedroom door
Mm.
because I did not know what she was going to do next. Um, all this is dynamic. All it's constantly changing, which is why you need to say, stay present and aware and notice what's going on inside you, what's going on outside you, what your own resources are right now. Are you exhausted or are you feeling comfortable and competent in what you're doing right here, right now? Um, you can choose whether you're going to speak or whether you're not going to speak. You can stand your ground and say no or yes, which is one of the things that we were talking about yesterday.
Yeah.
Of course, the people who watch this are going to know when we recorded it, because when we recorded it is different from the time it's going to
Right.
be available for public view. But you've always got choices. You can So yeah, you can stand your ground, you can speak, you can not speak. You can remove yourself to another place. A
Mm.
lot of people um, in evolving dictatorships, or when they could see a war coming,
Mm.
just left their home or had to leave their home and find another place to live because they did not want to be killed by some abusive
Right.
um, dictator who was ordering men to kill,
Mm.
to acquire more power or more territory. That's a different kind of power.
Yeah.
And you do not want to support that, but saying no is hard because maybe then you'll be slapped down and abused. None of this is easy.
Yeah. Definitely.
Um, I guess I'm done with that. As I say, I keep coming back to the same
Yeah, I was gonna say I
fundamental.
feel like yeah, you just also answered our next kind of question a little bit, who we have from George from New Jersey when talking about kind of non-attachment. He asked, "How can I embrace non-attachment as a healing process without feeling disconnected or apathetic?" And I feel like you kind of just touched on that, like a little.
Well, I've got another fast answer to that. So, um, non-attachment can be a very safe, functional, centered conscious space. It's that center point of pure present moment awareness from which you can observe, choose, act, and educate others
Mm.
if that seems appropriate at the time. Now, I'm again pointing in a direction, but if you look at photos of the Buddha, for example,
Right.
he is always simply just sitting. That is that present moment point of pure present moment awareness. So it doesn't mean that he's detached or disconnected or apathetic. He is actually very attached or very aware.
Right.
And he can go in any direction from that center point in which he is sitting and observing and keeping himself sane. So he's not disconnected or apathetic.
Mm.
And he taught practices for 45 years. He taught the Four Noble Truths and the Buddhist Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Paths. And I guess the first of the Noble Truths is yes, there is suffering.
Mm.
Then he offers ways of getting out of the suffering. And his dying words, I just came across this recently. The source was there's an online place where you can post articles if you want to, called Medium. Have
Oh
you
yeah.
heard of that?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this came from somebody named Thomas Opong, Oppong, who writes some really good stuff up on Medium. And he has a lot of followers and supporters. But this is Buddha's dying words.
Mm,
Be a lamp, according to Thomas Opong, through Medium. Be a lamp unto yourself. Be a refuge for
mm,
yourself. Take yourself to no external refuge.
mm.
And gosh, those are powerful words, I think.
Yeah,
So I'm done with that one.
definitely. Yeah. Well, I love that we ended that last question with talking about Buddha as well, because something that we've been talking about a lot throughout our conversations and through you and the foundation is drawing from a lot of cross-cultural and different spiritual traditions as well. We have a question from Mariana, I believe is how you pronounce it, Mariana from Texas, who said, "How can I best navigate integrating diverse spiritual practices from outside my heritage while honoring their origins and avoiding appropriation?"
Yeah, and I had to look up that word appropriation
Yeah.
because I've been thinking, what does she mean by that word? But I've offered you tons of practice. You are always in choice.
Hmm.
So you get to choose which tradition going out from that center point you want to follow right here, right now. It doesn't mean that you're saying the others are wrong. Um, it's just that right now it's either easiest for you or best serves you to follow a specific tradition. Maybe you understand the language, you understand the structure of that tradition. You've been along that path before, and that's what's working for you. But maybe there's no church
Mm,
um, or spiritual tradition in your location where you are right now. Then you go explore some other ones if you need that kind of community support.
yeah.
And I may have said this here before, but there's certain schools of Catholicism which will teach that the words Catholic Church mean universal community. So it in some ways it doesn't matter which path you're following right now. You get to choose, you get to pick.
Yeah.
And that word appropriation, I looked that up. I
Mm,
used ChatGPT to do some research for me. It could mean two different things.
yeah.
And I don't know which it means for Mariana. I think it means taking something for one's own use without permission from another person. I think that's the way she's understanding it.
Yeah.
But in the Bible, it has a different meaning. And I can give you some references here fairly fast. Um, faith and trust in God's divine gifts and grace. It's not appropriation,
Mm,
taking something without permission, but it's more blending into or serving or using certain traditions to support you and those around you, which is different from taking something without permission. But
right.
the references I wrote down here were Ephesians chapter 2, verses 8 and 9. Um, James chapter 1, verse 6, and which is talks about living realities, which is really interesting. And then Romans chapter 12, verses 6 to 8. So if you want to explore a different way of thinking of it, it sounds as if she's saying it when she uses the word avoiding appropriation. It sounds as if she's seeing it as taking something without permission rather than blending with and flowing with
Hmm.
something that our minds really can't completely understand or capture, but we can experience that flow and that connection. Um, Let me see. And this is my final comment here, Eric, and then I can let you go, or you can end this. Um, all spiritual practices can serve your well-being as long as you understand them as tools or practices for service, transformation, and empowerment, not as truths. Because words can support us, they point to something much deeper than any of our left brains is ever going to understand. And none of us is omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent in these physical bodies.
Mm.
But each one of us has a moment of life. So I'll end there.
Yeah, that's a beautiful spot to end off on for today. Well, thank you so much again, though, Dr. Warfield, for once again taking the time to speak with me and offer your thoughts with us at their journey. I appreciate it. All right, yeah, and for everyone at home, if you want to check out our previous episodes with Dr. Janet Smith Warfield, click the links in the description and stay tuned for our future episodes with her as well. Once again, I'm Eric Mastrota, and this has been Their Journey, a sit down with the National Digest. Take care, everybody.